everyone. Welcome back to Truth or Demons podcast. Today I have a reaction video for you. Some stuff has been going on and NESPR, as usual, has been ridiculous. So I wanted to do this quick little reaction video for you guys on their live podcast from the week before last. I heard a lot about this and was asked many times to cover it, to react to it, to address it. Apparently they got a little unhinged and we're going to see how it went. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play, and I will probably not show, well, actually I will definitely not show all of it, but I will probably just fast forward for you guys, the mundane parts and the irrelevant parts and so on. And we'll just see how this goes. So here we go. Okay, I'm gonna skip this.
Ed was passionate about helping people because Ed lived in a haunted house. He lived in a haunted house in Bridgeport, Connecticut from age 5 to age 12. So he said to me, when I got out of the Navy, I said, I'm gonna find out if other people had the same experiences that I did when I lived in that house.
From the time that I was about 7 years old, I remember seeing lights around people. I realized that I was communicating. My Catholic faith is very, very important to me and still is today. And that helped me.
Okay.
Seekers of the Supernatural podcast with your hosts, Tony Spera, Dan Rivera, Chris Galoran, and Wade Kirby. Well, tonight, Dan, Chris, Wade, I think the audience would probably like to know a little bit about Ed and Lorraine, how they met, how they got interested in the paranormal, how Ed joined the Navy in World War II, how they decided to start the New England Society for Psychic Research, and I think people would really like to know the background. So if you guys want to ask me any questions about Ed, you can start it out. If you want, Dan, about what you want to know first.
If you know, if you know Tony 5 seconds, he tells the best stories and anecdotes about the Warrens. So, Dan, take it away.
Yeah, Tony. How did it all start? What Ed meeting Lorraine, and then leading to how they got into the paranormal, and right. They started NESPR. What is the meaning of NESPR?
Right. So to tell you how they started, I'd have to go back to Ed's childhood when he was a young boy living in Bridgeport, Connecticut. He grew up in a pretty tough neighborhood back in Bridgeport. Where he lived, they used to call it the Bloody Bucket. And I remember Ed telling me when he was growing up that he'd see these mobsters getting out of these big Cadillacs and Buicks and all dressed up and everything. And he kind of liked that kind of stuff, like thinking about gangsters and things. But that's the kind of neighborhood he grew up in. Yep.
Yeah, Bridgeport was notorious for mob activity and everything. All the way through the 70s and 80s, right, when it was at its peak.
Right. Yeah, you got to remember that. Ed was born in 1926, so when he was like 10 years old, it was 1936. Yes.
I don't know if you caught that. I don't know if you can see it, but Dan is drinking out of a mug with a big picture of Lorraine's face on it, and I just thought that was interesting.
Really, when the mob was really big too, really going strong, And so his father, though, was a state trooper for a while, Connecticut.
Okay, so I kind of listened to this a little bit beforehand so I could know where I needed to comment and what I needed to comment and be prepared so I can share some stuff here with you guys and everything. So this right here, what Tony has just said, he just said that Ed's father used to be a state trooper. And I actually talked about this in my episode 1, where Ed says his dad was a state trooper, but Ed also says that his dad was a policeman. And when I looked up the census for Ed's family and everything to try and verify things, relationships, addresses, all of that stuff, I found Ed's parents' work history according to the census. And the census says, which I'll put it up here for you, the 1930 and the 1940 census don't say anything about him being a policeman, but one of them does say he worked in a prison as a guard. So that's not the same thing as a policeman or a state trooper. I just find that interesting. I believe Ed started that fib, but of course Tony is perpetuating it because that's what he was told by Ed. So I just find it interesting that that isn't true. It's just not true according to the census. So I always thought that was a little interesting because I've seen Ed tell, like in all his interviews and in his books, he says different things about different things. It's never the same. It's always changing, and his dad's profession was one of those things. So,
state trooper, very stern man. His father was also in the United States Navy, World War I, and he was also a prize fighter. But Ed grew up in a tough situation.
I did find, and I did mention in episode 1 that Ed's dad was a prize fighter, and it's actually recorded wrong. The spelling of it is wrong. Instead of prize, Prize, it's price, and it's spelled Prise. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, he wasn't the kind of guy who would sit down for supper. They didn't have sit down suppers when he was growing up. I remember he told me one time that he's
upstairs, they just amputated.
Okay, so like I said, I've already pre-watched this. I just went ahead and fast forwarded a little bit because it's a lot of repeat stuff, irrelevant stuff, history of the Warrens as according to Tony and Dan throws in some of his stories, which I'm not even going to go there. And so, yeah, we're going to jump in about 36 minutes in and go from there.
His leg, and he's bleeding, and they didn't know what to do. I went over there, ran upstairs, I took my shirt off.
Speaking of Dan,
made a tourniquet around his, what was left of his leg.
Like Ed can empathize because he lived it. First of all, he lived it and he almost died in war, right? But he lived a haunted house. He was scared out of his wits. This kind of stuff creates character. It creates character. It doesn't create keyboard warriors like we have today, where they got a lot of gleons. They got a lot of balls behind the keyboard, but face to face, they're nothing but a bunch of pussies. You know what I mean? Make fun of Ed, or who say he's a this, he's a that. His mother was never home because she was an alcoholic and she was at the bar all the time. So, so people today, excuse me, as much fitness or to make shits. They come home, they get shit from people, like in Vietnam. They come home and they get spit on. They don't know what these people went through, and a lot of people don't know what Ed went through. He went through a lot of bullshit in his life.
Right.
Living alone. His father told him, "You're a grown man now, son. 8 years old. You're a grown man. You don't bother me."
Says he was living alone at 8 years old and all this or whatever. He had siblings. I even believe I addressed how one of his siblings was away a lot because he didn't, according to Ed, didn't like being in their haunted house. But he had Babe too. It wasn't like, whether or not that is true about his mom, I don't know. I've never actually heard that before. But yeah, he wasn't alone.
His father was like, "Don't bother me." And,
right.
His mother was never home because she was an alcoholic and she was at the bar all the time. So, so people today, excuse me, who make fun of Ed, or who say he's a this, he's a that, he's a jerk, he did this. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. Number one, they don't know him. So I just discount anything these assholes say, because first of all, you can't deal with stupid. You can't argue with stupid. So if you're arguing with somebody who's fucking stupid, and we know who we're talking about, you can't argue with them. Or people who are just like jealous, envious, whatever. They're just, there's something wrong with these people. Instead of like thanking Ed for carrying on and having a legacy of the paranormal and having it so we can do this today. Like, look at those TV shows that would have never happened without Ed and Lorraine. And people say, well, that's not necessarily, it is true. Because without Ed and Lorraine, there wouldn't be no paranormal shows. There wouldn't be.
Okay, so I don't necessarily agree with Tony on this. Ed and Lorraine did pave a path. They did do things that other people hadn't done yet, or they went public with things that other people hadn't gone public with yet. But there were other people that at the same time they were doing this, there were other people doing stuff. They weren't the only people in history doing ghost hunting or investigating or what they were doing. There are several people that were doing it. Hans Holzer was doing it. I think Ed even took inspiration from him, possibly, but to say that is really arrogant.
We wouldn't be here today. But getting back a little quickly to Lorraine. Lorraine had the power of discernment. She was a light trance medium and psychic. So a medium is someone who could speak to the dead. And a psychic is someone who has extrasensory perception. She could see, feel, and hear things beyond the normal five senses that you and I possess. So with that combination of someone who knows what a haunting's all about, studies devils and demons, which was Ed, and someone who's psychic and has a light trance medium, it can go into a trance and can communicate with the dead. That's a winning combination to me when you go into a haunted house.
Tony, did she learn to do that on her own, or did she have somebody that she learned, person or working with Ed?
No, she learned to do it on her own. And as a matter of fact, when she was probably in her 30s or 40s, she went to UCLA and was tested by Dr. Thelma Moss.
So what you won't find from Tony or anyone else who supports the Warrens about this testing that Lorraine underwent, she did go and she did do it with this doctor, but this doctor didn't have the background that they make you think she had. Her background was in acting, and she decided one day to, and not saying that she didn't have the smarts for it because she was in acting, just saying that she didn't have the extensive research and background that they lead you to believe for her to be testing Lorraine's psychic ability. It kind of bothers me that they say, oh yeah, Lorraine was a psychic for sure because she got tested by UCLA. The woman worked with UCLA. She was not a known professor. She wasn't of high regard in anything in education. So,
who was into psychic abilities and things like that, testing of psychics, and she was rated very, very highly. Now, is a psychic a miracle worker? No.
Okay, I'm going to fast forward again because they're just talking more history on the Warrens, more stories, stuff like that. There is specific things towards the end here I would really like to address with you guys. So,
douchebag on the internet may tell
went
you
a little
that
too far.
We do have a priest come in. Well, that's what he did too. He taught art classes too to people for like $5 an hour or whatever it was back then. He stopped that. He cleaned out the studio and made it the museum because all the stuff he was collecting, people were giving him artifacts. He was keeping him in a 33 Chevy. He had him sit, the car was loaded with all these statues, dolls, paintings, pictures, photos, his documents, everything. He goes, don't worry, we got to do something. That's when he changed the art studio into the occult museum because he didn't want to throw out any of the artifacts that people.
So wait, Ed was storing all this in the car first? All this demonically possessed stuff that's so dangerous in the car. No wonder they had so many car troubles.
Gave him or that he discovered or was sent to him because that was evidence of the paranormal. And because I said that, why are you keeping this stuff? Like a lot of people ask us today, why do you keep it? Well, if I tell people all about the Annabelle doll, how scary it was and how dangerous it is, and they go, well, where's the doll now? And I go, oh, well, we just threw it out in the dumpster because, we didn't want it anymore. Where's the crocodile for the creature from the Devil Made Me Do It case?
This was interesting because, first of all, it's always been a dinosaur, quote unquote, that was in the Devil Made Me Do It case that became possessed and spoke something, according to the Glatzels and the Warrens. He just called it a crocodile. But the funny thing about that is, both of those are wrong. It was a Godzilla doll, according to Carl Glatzel, who was there. So,
we got rid of that. Where's the satanic idol that was found in the woods? We don't have that anymore. People are going to start thinking these people are just making up stories. They keep telling us about all this stuff they have from these cases, but they don't show it to us. So
That is really ironic that he says that, because he is saying that his reasoning for taking these things on tour and stuff is because they don't want people to say that they don't ever show anything. But the fact of the matter is, they don't ever show anything. They have all of this stuff that they show off, but there's no proof, no evidence that they ever share about any of this. Nothing. They claim to have all this evidence, this mind-blowing stuff, and they never share it. So for him to say that just makes me giggle.
Ed said to me, we keep these objects because, number one, we know where they are. They're blessed by a Catholic priest, no matter what any douchebag on the internet may tell you that we don't. We do have a priest come in about once a month and bless the place and bless the artifacts, contrary to some assholes out there who think we don't. And so we do that. And then Ed said,
Tony really likes to point out the assholes that think things about them. He's constantly slinging insults at people he never names.
We keep them there. Plus, it's evidence that the demonic is real, because what greater thing to show a student of the paranormal than like the Annabelle doll or the fire doll or the fertility dolls?
He really just said the fire doll. The fire doll that I debunked, without a doubt, debunked ever being a haunted doll present for the story that they come up with that they stole from 1969. I can't believe he just said that.
Because now you're seeing it with your own eyes. It's one thing to talk about something. Like if I explain to you one of Wade's paintings, how great the painting was of the gazebo that he did and how nice it came out, people nod their heads, but they have no clue what I'm talking about, what it really looks like, until I show them the painting. When I show them the painting, they'll go, oh yeah, now I know what you mean about the texture of the woods and the texture of the trees and the perspective. Oh yeah, now I know what you mean. That's a great paint. The same thing with the artifacts. If we can't show people what we have, how are they going to believe it's even real? How are they going to believe the Annabelle doll even existed if we don't have it? So, and also, why do we take it out of the museum? Well, there's a reason for that. Ed told me that he wants as many people to see these artifacts as possible. So when the zoning department shut me down because of a neighbor's complaint.
Okay, before we talk about the neighbor's complaint, him being shut down, he just said that Ed told him he wanted as many people to see it as possible. Ed did not tell him to take them on tour. I'm pretty sure if and when Ed said that, he meant in the safety of the museum. Secondly, that was not at all Lorraine's wishes. So really quick, I'm going to play you a little clip I found of what Lorraine said herself. And I think her later years, like right before she passed, I think this interview was done. And she said this herself. And I'm going to put it up here for you guys to see what she had to say about what she wanted done with those artifacts.
My dream, after I pass, that they are all going to the Vatican.
Okay. All right. So yeah, you heard Lorraine. That's not what she wanted. She did not want these things paraded around. Whether or not it matters, I mean, it doesn't matter whether or not she believed, because there's speculation on whether or not she believed all this stuff. But she's recorded saying that's not what she wanted done with this stuff. So for Tony to say it's okay, and for him to say he knows and none of us know what Lorraine wants, it's been recorded what Lorraine wants. So
one neighbor said, oh, you're not zoned for that. She called the town, and the town says, well, you're not zoned for that, so you have to cease and desist, or we're going to fine you $150 a day. So I shut it down for 2 years or more. And then I thought about, well, how can we show the artifacts? And I came up with the idea.
They were fining you $1,500 a day, right?
What?
They were fining you $1,500.
No, $150 a day. $150 a day. But that adds up pretty quick, doesn't it?
Sure. Yeah, so, absolutely.
You know, it's like $950,000 a week. So it's like, come on. So I stopped. So I thought about, well, why don't we just take a few of the artifacts that are important and show them to people, like at a banquet facility or at a restaurant. And that's what I did. And if people don't like it, it's too fucking bad if they don't like it. You know what I mean?
Tony,
they can shove it up their ass. What?
You made that decision with.
Don't know if you heard that or not, but Tony said, too fucking bad. If people don't like it, they can shove it up their ass.
You made that decision with Lorraine. It wasn't just your decision. Lorraine was still around. She was still.
Yeah, it was Lorraine's decision because I started doing it in 2013, 14.
That's interesting that Chris threw that in there. See, they've been arguing. They argued a lot on the last one too, and they just don't seem to be so hunky-dory like they like to put off.
Right.
Lorraine was all for it.
She wanted to do it.
And listen, and Lorraine, being around Lorraine loved doing this. Lorraine,
because Dan is an expert on Lorraine,
and she did it till she couldn't do it no more. And if you tried to take that away from her, she would have had nothing. She loved talking to people,
loved meeting them.
All right, and taking the time, stopping. And there were times that we had to pull Lorraine away from people because she just wouldn't stop talking. It was her love. It was her passion.
And Mr. Warren always said, to me at least, that he wants to expose the ways of the devil. And what better is to show you how they manipulate into someone's home, life, TV set, movies, video games, and it's going on now. And that's why it's so important that these items get educated to be seen by the public.
And
if it's so important for these items to be seen by the public for educational purposes, why are they charging such high dollar amounts for these tickets? There's extra fees and such. It's not affordable. I've seen countless complaints about the prices. Even back when they started, people were complaining about how they paid for nothing essentially. And if this is for education, why are you charging so much money?
People don't understand. Like, Ed studied the occult. I mean, I know, like, we go downstairs to the Halloween room. You go in the museum, you can see everything in his office and everything. But what blew my mind was how in depth he got into it and studying it. Like, a lot of people don't know. Tony, hopefully I can say this. There was another side to the basement, and I saw things that what.
Here goes Dan again with stories that come out of nowhere. I've never heard of another side of the basement, and he said, "I hope it's okay if I say this." Dan is a special person.
Ed would research that blew my mind, like how deep he got into, like, the mind of an occultist.
Yes.
How they would practice.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Well, how better to fight someone?
But that was like the way he did it was just
it was eye-opening, right?
It was eye-opening.
You gotta go into their mind to know.
Yeah, and it's like, wow,
do that stuff.
This was on a totally different side of the basement, and it's like, and not many people went there in that side of the basement.
Well, that's like being a profiler, because you have to know what you're dealing with. Ed used to tell me all the time, you have to know what you're dealing with, Tone. You have to really know if it's demonic or if it's a human entity, an earthbound spirit, or what exactly is going on. Because he goes, the whole job of the demonic is to cause chaos, to be deceitful, to trick you, and to destroy you. So he goes, you have to be smarter than them. You have to try to be a step ahead, or if not even a step ahead, you have to know their MO. You have to know what their modus operandi is. Why is this happening? How do they normally operate in a house? What do they do to people? So that's how he would know. He would immediately know that somebody was having a demonic spirit by the things they told him. If they said, well, something pushed me down the stairs, Ed, something slashed my arm, Ed would immediately know that if this is true, that it really did throw him down the stairs, that it's demonic, because a human spirit can't do that. A human spirit can probably move a pencil a little bit.
I love how they have all these rules that, a human spirit can't do that. How do you know? How do you know what a human spirit can and can't do? How do you know what a demonic spirit can and can't do? Nobody knows. For you to say that is so ridiculous. It drives me just insane that people think that they can tell you that something means something definitively And they don't even know. That drives me crazy.
On a table by concentrating. That's about it. Throwing a person down the stairs, a human spirit can't do it. So you have to know the difference between a human power, earthbound entity, and a demonic entity. So that's what Ed used to instill upon me is you have to know the difference. You have to know what you're dealing with. And he used to provoke. He would provoke things in the house, religious provocation. He would say, in the name of Jesus Christ and the blood of Christ, I command you to reveal your identity now. So why he would say that, remember, he wasn't challenging, he was provoking. There's a difference. A challenge would be, if you're demonic and you're so tough, come do something to me. That's a challenge. But if you say, in the name of Jesus Christ, not your name, but Jesus' name, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to reveal your identity to me, that's different. You're asking in the name of God to tell who you are and what are you doing here? Not challenging it like, if you could throw me down the stairs, go ahead. That's a challenge. You don't want to do that.
They will always take you up on that challenge.
At some point, you don't want to do that.
Right. You know what? And that's the reasons that we're still continuing this today. I mean, like I said, with all these naysayers out there and everything, no matter what, we're still going to continue this.
I'm never going to stop.
It's in our hearts, and we're doing it, for the right reasons. I love help people. So do you.
The only time I'm going to quit is when I'm in the box. When I'm in the box.
Yeah, I think at one of our events we'll hold your funeral live at one of our events, and we'll have your casket on stage. I think everybody would love that.
I would like that. What? Here's the thing. Here's the thing. No matter what anybody says about us, no matter what anybody writes about us, no matter what anybody tries to do about us, we're not going to listen to them. We're not going to do what they want us to do. We're not going to stop it. We're not going to stop traveling. We're not going to stop talking about the paranormal.
So as far as I know, the only thing anyone wants them to stop doing is faking the paranormal and lying about things that have been disproven. That's all we want you to do. Stop lying and faking and essentially stealing people's money with those lies and faking. So that's all we asked for.
We're not going to stop the New England Society for Psychic Research. We're very successful no matter what anybody tells you. We're successful because we help people. We helped somebody in Northford, Connecticut. We've got somebody up in Bourne, Massachusetts that we have to go visit. I just talked to the lady. We do a lot of investigation, but we're not dickheads like some people and got to tell everybody every move they make, where they went, how they helped somebody, bragging about themselves. We don't do that.
I'm honestly not sure who he's talking about there, because most of the people he's in relations with, that's what they do.
Ed didn't do that.
You know what,
Tony? We help people because we want to help people, because we're trying to continue on Ed and Lorraine's work, not because we want to be famous. Because if we wanted to be famous, we could have had another TV show. We could have anything we wanted, but we're not.
They don't want to be famous. They could have had another TV show. They've had TV shows, lots of TV shows. Tony has been on a lot of documentaries. They had the 28 Days Haunted, I think, which was not great. I really love the assessment John Wolfe gave that. Not great. The show is not great. John Wolfe, great. Also, I'm going to throw something up here in the frame for you guys to see. Tony says he doesn't want to be famous. They don't want to be famous. Why do you have an entertainment company? Why were you in a short film as a mobster? You don't want to be famous? You were also flown out to London, I think, or England, to be part of the next Conjuring film and stuff because you are mentioned in the movie, I believe. But you don't want to be famous? Sounds to me like you do.
Because we do the right thing. I mean,
you're breaking up. Go back to where you were before.
Yeah.
All right. So, in saying that, I mean, even in this field and dealing with all this, we lost a lot of good friends. We lost friends that we don't care that we did lose them, but there are friends that we
lost friends that we don't care that we lost. that we did lose them, Dan said. I know who they're referring to. They seem to bring these people up a lot. And their behavior lost them, these friends. They are very delusional about that. And it kind of drives me crazy.
Did lose, and you know, and I wish it never happened. And I think it's all because, you know, we had to take different directions in what we're doing in order to keep this alive. I talked to Chris about it, you know, plenty of times too, that you know, why. I asked, you know, this shouldn't be.
I know why.
Demonic likes, you know, to separate us.
I know
what we're doing.
Yeah,
but you know
devil,
what?
It's the devil. It's the devil at work. It's the devil at work.
Divide and conquer.
Tony blames everything that doesn't go his way or everything that perturbs him in any way on the devil and demons.
Yeah, but we should be. Here's the thing: is, and we do this all the time. You know, going on investigations, and we're dealing with the demonic. We should know ahead of time how it works, you know, and how this is going to happen, you know. And I think, you know, we need to, you know, open our eyes sooner. I think, you know.
And well, let's put this
happening. You know, I think it's not. Listen, it's not.
How do you do that, though?
You mean,
well, the thing is,
character, or are you talking policy?
Well, you see in the signs. I think even us as, you know, people, we should step back and look at everything, you know, before we commit to anything. You know what I'm saying?
Anybody,
you know.
But the thing is, Dan. The thing is, what you got to remember this too. God is on our side. God is exposing people that shouldn't be with us, and we don't see it. Sometimes we don't see it
because God has time to care about such petty things.
But that's what he did. He took people out of our lives for a reason, because they were Japs. When I say Japs,
did you hear that? I'm a little speechless. I don't want to repeat it. I hope you heard it. Oh my goodness, Tony just used a very old racial slur against Japanese people to refer to his ex-friends. Oh, Tony.
They were not our friends, they were our enemies. They were turning us in. They were talking about us. They were envious of us all the time. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what their total game plan was, but God knew it before we did, so he took them away from us, and I'm happy he did. Because I'm just saying, I'm happy with our team now. I'm happy with who we have on our team now. We don't need jealousy. We don't need envy. We don't need backstabbers. We don't need Fredos. We don't need people talking about us and trying to undermine us to impress. I don't know who they're trying to impress. Maybe one person that I can think of that they're trying to, or listening to certain people talk about us and believing everything they hear without hearing the other side of the story. Or they just like negativity. You know, people today, they just like negativity. They like to trash everybody they can because they're losers and they're living in their basement, or they don't have a job, or they're living off their life.
Here we are again. Insults. Insult after insult. Why are we attacking people for living in their mother's basement? The economy sucks. Some of us live in our mother's basement. Why is that so bad? I honestly don't know who he's referring to, because I don't know anyone that lives in their mother's basement currently. But why are we being so negative, as he said? Like, he doesn't like negativity, and everyone around him is being negative and attacking him. What? Isn't this projection? Is this what you call projection?
Or something like that. They're living off their wife. They're not working. They don't know how to work. They don't drive. They don't do anything. They're just sitting around and they
you know what I like about the team now? As small as it is, it's concentrated, and each one of us has a quarter of the wheel, and it completely turns round and round to help clients when we go.
I want you guys to remember this discussion that they keep circling around about the team and how they're grateful for who is in it now, and the size is perfect now, and it's just the four of them, and they can trust each other and all of this. Please remember that for the end of this.
Location
Right.
And Dan does his stuff, and I know it. I've defined it, and I know what he can help with. Chris does his part.
Whatever that is.
Things that I
We're still trying to figure that out.
We'll figure it
computer
out.
stuff and posting.
Yeah, I'm
and
the tech.
Somebody has said he sings like an angel, so maybe that's what it is.
scheduling and
Are they really poking fun at the fact that Chris doesn't do anything for the group? Are they saying that Chris doesn't do anything for the group and then making fun of it? That seems a little awkward and weird.
and Tony is an encyclopedia of knowledge.
Tony's Tony.
Tony's Tony, and so it's a good combination right now, and it complements each other. There's no competition. There's
I'd like to think that Ed and Lorraine would be very proud of this group, and I think Tony did good picking. Well, here I am tooting our own horn,
but we all earned it. We paid
Right.
behind the scenes.
Well, look,
for a long time.
I think it says a lot about us. It says a lot about us, and it says a lot about our instincts and our character. It's like everybody, we took Wade on, right? We took Wade on as a member of the group. Now, that's a pretty small group, right? We're not taking 100 people and letting them try out. We're taking who we think would work. So we got Wade, right? And I have to pat myself on the back because look at all the people that like Wade, that say Wade is the best. Wade is great. We love Wade. Why? Because we know how to pick the right kind of character, somebody who has compassion, someone who's honest as the day is long. So that's why we got a small group that I know I can count on every day. And
not everything's paranormal with us.
If I ask Dan to do something for me, he doesn't even ask me why. He just says, "When do you want me to do it?" That's the difference. Other people that I've met in the years, they wouldn't even do one little thing I asked them to do and I was trying to help them, and they wouldn't want to do it. And I'm not going to go into detail, but that's the kind of, so you know who your friends are. There's people that if I call Dan up tonight at 3 a.m. and say, "Dan, guess what? I got to go to the hospital. My car won't start." He'd be right over here. There's other people.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. This really infuriates me a little bit because Tony is speaking on a specific experience he experienced with Frank and Terry Chiafari. I had Frank on my show. I interviewed Frank. Frank said nothing bad about Tony. Not once, not a single word bad about Tony. He talked about his experience with the Warrens and his experiences in general. And Tony was very upset that he came on my show because they assumed I was just bashing the Warrens, and they made all kinds of assumptions and instantly hated me for their reasons. So, Tony is upset and still apparently upset that Frank didn't pick him up for something or couldn't give someone a ride. I'm sorry, I don't remember the specifics. Please forgive me, Frank and Terry, but they were not available because they were out of town. They couldn't drop everything from another state and come assist you with a car ride. I don't understand why you don't understand that and are still so upset about it. Clearly, you have some things to work through over this, Tony, because Frank and Terry did not wrong you the way you keep saying that they did. This infuriates me because this is on you. You need to understand that. They didn't do anything to you. Your behavior led them to not want to be around you anymore. You need to understand that.
That if I said that, they'd say, "Well, call an ambulance." They don't give a shit. So I know who the group.
Maybe they can't drive there.
What?
Maybe they can't drive there. They don't have a car.
But I do know
a driver's license, or
He's such an asshole.
I do know that.
That's another dig at another person. It really infuriates me that they think they're so funny with these little digs because they don't say names. They're referring to Eric Vitale, and they are making horrendous comments about him and his life. That's not okay. They talk about being positive and being God's children and whatever, and they behave like this.
Tony came on Christmas Day, and he had to leave the house at 7 a.m. to get me a vest, a scarf, and a fireplace started because there was no power.
So now they're going to talk about how amazing Tony is and what a good friend he is.
Here.
And you don't like fires.
No, and but he taught me how to do the fuse box and to learn all that. He came Christmas morning.
Yeah, I remember that.
And prove it, not talk. That's an action that was done.
Okay, so let's get back to the subject. We don't have that much more time. So NESPR was created, right?
Yeah, 1952, and that's when they started it, and it grew from there because what happened was Edward.
Okay, I'm going to fast forward again just to make sure there's nothing I missed, but I think we're almost done.
At Stepney.
I have no idea what he's doing.
Gathering. It was called the Silver Tea. Stepney's part of Monroe, Connecticut. You wouldn't do anything that's not right. That's number one. Number two is you built the case stand for Annabelle and for the fire doll and for the crocodile, and we have the items blessed by a priest. There's protections done to the case with holy oil, holy oil, and holy water infused in the stain of the boxes, and prayers that are infused in there. And we have you guys blessed before you go. And I trust you 100% that you're not going to screw around with the objects, because I see how you are around the objects. Yeah, and holy water. I see how you guys are around the objects. You give it a lot of respect, which you should. You don't make like they're nothing. You make like they're something, and they're dangerous, and you know they're dangerous. I see how you guys transport it, how you package it, how you talk about them, and how you want to be safe with them. The way Wade and Dan and Chris package these things up so tightly, and how you get them blessed by the priest that comes, that Dan, and he comes and blesses them. So I trust you guys. You have to trust somebody. And after all these years, if I can't trust you guys, then I can't trust anybody. So, but there's other people that I thought I could trust, and we won't get into that I couldn't. So we got rid of them, and they were bad people. A couple of them.
And in fairness, there are some.
We got rid of them. They were bad people.
Right.
Yeah. So, we get a lot of,
so we do everything we can to help other people. And this is just for the general public to know that we don't charge people. We went out to a house in that part of Connecticut recently. How many times did we go there? 3-4 times. And we never asked anybody. Yeah, we never. And that was an hour and a half drive each way. And we never asked anybody for money. We wouldn't think about, hey, we need gas money. We don't do that. We try to help people because, first of all,
he just said we don't need gas money, but I'm pretty sure I read or heard the Warren say that they just charged for travel.
It makes me and you and Dan and Chris and Wade, it makes us all feel good when we can help somebody. Like Wade talked to these people on the phone for days on end afterwards to make sure that we really address the situation properly and make sure that these people were satisfied with our work, the way we tried to help them, and so they can keep up their end of the work schedule that they had to do. So we feel honored to be able to help people, because every time I help people and you guys do, I think of how Ed and Lorraine feel and felt, and how Lorraine was. Lorraine would always go the extra mile to help people. So to me, it's honoring them. We're honoring my in-laws and my wife's parents by doing good work. Yeah. I've never done, you guys have never done anything, and I've never done anything to try to hurt anybody. So I'm proud of that.
No. Let me make this point. It's important. Sometimes if you're under oppression, you need someone at 3 o'clock in the morning to be able to reach out to. And Miss Warren was that for me. And I will never forget it. And I will never not answer a phone call that rings at 3 o'clock in my home.
Yeah. Right. And also, you just threw me up because you stopped me from what I was going to say. But
being there for the client.
They've been interrupting each other left and right. And now Dan's mad because Wade interrupted him and made him forget his thought. Great team, you guys.
Yeah, and we have another case coming up, and we have to get back to that lady in Massachusetts. That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, I talked to her actually yesterday.
Spirits don't wait to warm weather.
I know, Wade, but weather-wise,
Yeah,
it's traveling
but
and
we don't like
everything.
to get stuck up.
Way
We don't
to
like to
go.
get stuck up there either. And he was a tough son of a gun. Ed would never back down from a fight, never.
Speaking of Ed not backing down from a fight, right before he joined the Navy, he apparently assaulted someone and they needed stitches on the back of their head because he struck them, and he also robbed them.
I saw him one time. We went to England, and then we got back to New York, and he parked the car. He pulled his car up somewhere in the terminal, and big travel bus pulled up, and the bus driver got out and started yelling it, "Move your car out of here!" Ed walks up to the guy, nose to nose. God damn it! Who the hell you think you're talking to? Right, nose to nose. The guy was about 6'4", and it's like looking up at the guy, and Lorraine's like, "Yep, that's Ed." I go, "Ed, come on, Ed, come here." And so Ed would never back down. 5'9",
Yeah.
about 200 pounds. He would never back down from anybody. To this wonderful event we're having, where we're going to show Annabelle and some other objects, and we're going to have an overnight investigation at night. Midnight, we're going to investigate, and it's a nice restaurant. It's haunted, by the way.
Yeah, nice Italian restaurant, Twisted Vine. To have great food. The owner is great. He's letting us investigate the location after our Warrenology, so we have the whole night to investigate that location. It's going to be fun.
And the haunted objects will be there.
The haunted objects are going to be on a 3rd level.
And you never know, but they do.
Is it just me, or is it kind of irresponsible to take so-called demonically possessed items to a supposed haunted location? I mean, all the discussions we have and have heard about hauntings and demonic things, doesn't it feel like this would make it worse? That it would be irresponsible to bring alleged demonically possessed items to a haunted location? Does that bother anybody else?
To attract activity.
They do.
You know what I mean?
And don't worry, guys. Don't worry, folks out there. We know how to handle it if something happens. But just go to our website and sign up if you want. And it's a limited edition. We only got 80 spots, and we got over half filled already. So
before we get to San Antonio,
you don't want to announce that yet? You didn't hear back from him today?
No, we didn't hear. We were supposed to hear back today, but
there's a couple locations that we're still waiting to hear back. We're going to be announcing them soon. They're going to be finalized. We're definitely going to be doing them. So I think our next podcast will be announcing the 2 states that we're going to be at.
The West Virginia State Penitentiary is almost sold out. There's only 2 seats, right?
I don't know I got to talk to Ryan and see how the ticket sales are going with that. But they are day tours.
I think we
available.
Lost Tony.
Tony's out. Tony.
He probably ran out of juice.
He ran out of juice. His battery went dead on his phone. But guys, I think we're gonna wrap it up. We're not gonna take any calls today, right?
Yeah. No. You know what? We got a lot of questions that were in our chat. Thanks, guys, for asking the questions. We just didn't want to get off topic. We were talking about Ed and Lorraine, how they.
Okay, that's it. I'm done. There's nothing else of importance, I'm pretty sure. So remember when I told you to keep in mind the whole them talking about their team and how it's perfect now, how God weeded out all the bad seeds and this, that, and the other. Well, one of the people that used to be on their team is their guest on their next podcast. And I'm very worried for him. Jimmy is a great guy. He's known as Mr. Haunted, and he has been announced to be a guest on their next podcast episode. And they shut Jimmy out without a word. They didn't say anything to him, deleted him from Facebook, completely took him off the website. Do not acknowledge Jimmy as a team member anymore at all. And Jimmy's going to go on the show, and who knows what's going to happen. I just, knowing Jimmy and how kind he is, I'm worried they're going to manipulate him and take advantage of him. And because Jimmy's doing pretty good. He released his book. I shared it with you guys. I don't know how I feel about it. And to have watched that and see how they talk about their group and their friends and the people that are no longer in their lives, and how awful they talk about people, that you heard the things they say, the way they insult people and the way they talk about people without naming them. I don't think that's okay, and I'm not sure what's going to happen next. So I just wanted to share that with you all, let you guys know that this is NESPR. This is how NESPR operates. This is what they say. This is what their podcast is about. We lost somewhere along the way. We lost something. That is not the paranormal. That is not how the paranormal works. That is not what our mission in the world of the paranormal is. They're confused and, I don't know, stuck in time maybe, but a lot of things he said were false, as you saw, and I just don't understand. I'll never understand, I guess, but that is it for this episode. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.